Tonight, I want to interrupt something you do without thinking. Not tomorrow, not someday, tonight. Most people end their day the same way. They turn off the lights, close their eyes, and carry one last sentence into sleep. That sentence feels harmless, but it isn't resting. It is working. Here is the uncomfortable truth. The words you allow to follow you into bed tonight are already shaping what money will or will not find you next. Not as punishment, as instruction. If this sounds exaggerated, stay with me, because the danger is not saying something negative. The danger is saying something final. Before we go any further, I want you to do something simple but deliberate. In the comments, write one sentence that honestly reflects how you feel about money right now. Not what you want to feel, not what sounds optimistic, just the truth. Do this for one reason only. Unspoken beliefs operate in the dark. Spoken beliefs lose their power to control you unconsciously. When you write it, you turn an invisible force into something you can see. You may feel hesitation. That hesitation matters. It means you've touched the edge of something real. Most people believe money responds to effort alone. Work harder, push longer, sacrifice more. And yet, you've probably seen effort produce nothing while ease suddenly produces opportunity. That is not luck. It is alignment. Ancient traditions understood this long before modern psychology gave it new names. They observed that the final moments of the day carry disproportionate influence, not because of superstition, but because the mind is unguarded there. What enters does not argue, it settles. Think about the phrases that usually appear when your body is tired. It is what it is. At least I'm getting by.
I'll deal with it later. These phrases sound realistic. They are not neutral. They are commands disguised as acceptance. I'm not here to motivate you. Motivation fades. I'm here to show you where the signal is being sent from without your consent. The night is not passive. It is receptive. And what you place there becomes familiar. What becomes familiar becomes normal. And what becomes normal quietly becomes your ceiling. You don't need to believe anything yet. Belief is not required for systems to respond. Consistency is. Notice how this feels different from advice. I'm not asking you to change your life tonight. I'm asking you to notice the sentence that ends your day, because that sentence has been rehearsed for years. In a moment, I will explain why sleep creates a gateway where words bypass resistance and sink deeper than effort ever could.
Why the subconscious listens most closely when you are no longer trying to control it. For now, stay with this awareness. Tonight is not just another night. It is a moment of quiet influence. And what you write or repeat before bed is already preparing what tomorrow feels allowed to bring. Sleep is often misunderstood as an ending. In reality, it is a passage, a soft crossing from control into receptivity. When you fall asleep, the part of your mind that evaluates, corrects, and resists begins to loosen its grip. This is not theory, it is observable. The rational guard steps aside, and what remains is suggestion. Modern psychology calls this the subconscious. Ancient traditions called it a gate. Different language, same observation. What enters here does not face opposition. This is why the last thoughts of the night matter more than the first thoughts of the morning.
Morning thoughts compete with noise, responsibility, and habit. Night thoughts arrive when the system is quiet. They sink. Throughout history, spiritual systems protected this moment, not with fear, but with care. Words were chosen carefully before sleep, because they were believed to travel further when spoken at the edge of consciousness. Most people unknowingly use this gate against themselves. They review problems. They replay disappointments. They settle into phrases that sound realistic, but are deeply limiting. By the time sleep arrives, the instruction has already been delivered. This explains something many people sense but cannot articulate. Why they work hard, yet feel unseen. Why progress appears suddenly after an internal shift rather than a strategic one. The system responds to the deepest signal, not the loudest effort. At night, the mind does not want complexity.
It wants direction. Whatever direction you offer, it accepts. It does not analyze your words. It organizes around them. This is why writing before bed is so powerful. Writing slows the moment. It turns intention into form. A thought can drift. A written word has weight. In psychological terms, writing creates commitment. In spiritual terms, it creates a vessel, a place where something can land. You don't need repetition here. Repetition belongs to the day. At night, clarity is enough. One sentence, clearly formed, can outweigh 100 spoken casually. This also explains why vague language becomes dangerous at this hour. Phrases like, "this is just how it is," feel neutral. But neutrality does not exist in receptive states. Everything is interpreted as direction. When you fall asleep after telling yourself that this is the limit, the subconscious begins maintaining that limit.
Not aggressively, quietly, efficiently. Understanding this changes how you listen to yourself at night. You begin to notice the phrases that repeat when your guard is down. Those phrases are not random. They are rehearsed instructions. In the next chapter, I will show you the first and most common mistake people make at this gate. A sentence that feels mature and calming, but signals closure when life is still asking for expansion. The first mistake hides behind calm language. It sounds reasonable, responsible, even healthy. The mistake is ending the day by declaring that everything is fine. I'm okay. It's good enough. At least I'm stable. These sentences are usually meant to soothe the nervous system, and during the day, they often do. At night, they do something else. In a receptive state, words are not interpreted emotionally. They are interpreted literally.
When you say that things are fine, you are not expressing peace. You are announcing completion. In ancient teachings, completion is powerful, but only when it is true. When completion is declared too early, it becomes a ceiling. This is where many people unknowingly lock themselves into stagnation. They are not ungrateful, they are tired, and tired language is taken seriously by the subconscious. I once watched this happen to someone who had worked for decades towards security. When he finally reached it, his nightly words changed. Not to arrogance, but to quiet finality. I've done enough. Nothing collapsed after that. That is why the pattern went unnoticed. Opportunities didn't disappear. They stopped feeling necessary. Growth didn't end. It stopped being pursued. This is the danger of false closure. It doesn't feel like failure. It feels like rest.
But rest without intention slowly becomes inertia. Psychologically, the effect mirrors the spiritual law. The brain hears closure and reduces alertness. Curiosity fades. Risk feels unnecessary. The system switches from expansion to preservation. Preservation is useful in emergencies. It is destructive when adopted as a lifestyle. This is why saying everything is fine before sleep has consequences. Not immediate ones, gradual ones. The kind that are felt years later as a vague sense of being stuck. Gratitude is not the problem here. Gratitude that invites continuation is healthy. Gratitude that ends the story is not. At night, the difference matters. Your subconscious does not hear tone. It hears meaning, and meaning is precise. When you say you have enough, the system agrees. It does not argue. It does not ask for clarification. It simply stops searching for more.
This is not punishment. It is obedience. Once you see this, you start hearing your own words differently. You realize how often calm language hides resignation, how often comfort replaces openness. In the next chapter, I will show you the law behind this effect, why abundance flows only where space exists, and how a simple metaphor explains exactly why money stops moving when the cup is already full. There is a law beneath everything we have discussed so far. It is not moral. It is not emotional. It is structural. In ancient teachings, it is called the law of the vessel. A vessel can only receive what it has space for. If it is full, nothing enters. If it is closed, nothing flows. This law explains why money often stops moving long before effort does. It is not because opportunity vanished. It is because the internal container was sealed.
Before sleep, that everything is fine, that you have enough, that nothing more is needed, you are not being humble. You are declaring fullness, and fullness ends reception. Imagine holding a cup filled to the edge. You ask for more water. The source is available. The water is ready, but there is nowhere for it to go. The system does not punish the cup. It simply stops pouring. This is how abundance works, not as reward, but as response. In Kabbalistic understanding, words create shape. They define the boundaries of the vessel. A sentence spoken at night shapes the size of what you can receive the next day. This is why premature satisfaction is dangerous. Not satisfaction itself, but timing. When satisfaction closes the vessel before growth is complete, expansion becomes impossible. Many people misunderstand this and assume the teaching rejects gratitude. It does not.
Gratitude is essential, but gratitude without openness becomes a lid. The correct posture is grateful and open, full of appreciation, but aware that more is possible. This balance keeps the vessel alive. Think about how this applies beyond money. Relationships stagnate when people believe they are finished growing. Skills decay when learning is replaced with comfort. The same law repeats everywhere. At night, the effect intensifies because the subconscious does not question what you say. It accepts the shape you define and begins organizing reality around it. This is why the last sentence of the day matters so much. It is not a summary, it is a blueprint. If the blueprint says complete, construction stops. If it says open, movement continues. Most people close the vessel unintentionally, not through negativity, but through resignation disguised as peace.
They believe they are being realistic. In truth, they are being final. Once you see this, you cannot unsee it. You start noticing how often language shrinks possibility, how often comfort replaces curiosity. In the next chapter, we will look at a different form of closure, one that arrives not through exhaustion, but through relief. The moment you feel you have won just enough to stop paying attention, and how that moment quietly halts momentum without warning. The second mistake does not come from fatigue, it comes from relief, and that is why it is harder to detect. It appears when something finally works. A bill gets paid, pressure eases, stability arrives, and a quiet thought follows you into bed. I can relax now. On the surface, this feels earned, human, reasonable. But beneath it, a shift occurs. Awareness softens, attention loosens, and movement slows.
In spiritual systems, growth is sustained by consciousness, not struggle. You do not need to push constantly, but you must remain awake inwardly. The moment inner vigilance drops, momentum begins to leak. This is not dramatic. Nothing breaks, nothing is lost overnight. That is why this mistake is so dangerous. It replaces progress with maintenance. There is an old saying that illustrates this perfectly. When the guard sleeps, the gate does not collapse. It is simply left open to stagnation. Life continues, but it no longer advances. Psychologically, the pattern is clear. Relief signals safety. Safety reduces alertness. Reduced alertness limits perception. You stop noticing subtle openings because you are no longer looking for them. This is why people often plateau after small wins. They did not fail. They succeeded just enough to stop paying attention.
At night, this mistake becomes even more powerful. When you fall asleep thinking that things are finally under control, the subconscious receives a signal of completion. Not absolute completion, but sufficient completion. And sufficient completion is enough to slow growth. This often shows up in language like, I don't want to push my luck, or I should just be grateful for what I have. Gratitude is not the problem. Withdrawal is. The soul does not interpret rest as a signal to stop. It interprets lowered awareness as instruction to preserve. Preservation maintains, it does not expand. This is why life seems to reward those who stay inwardly engaged, even during calm periods. They are not anxious, they are attentive. They rest without disengaging. Ancient traditions understood this balance. Even in times of rest, intention was maintained, not effort, direction. When this mistake combines with the first one, a loop forms. You declare things fine, then you relax awareness. Together, they create a sealed system. Nothing enters, nothing grows. This is where many people remain for years without understanding why progress feels distant, but failure never arrives. They are not blocked, they are paused. In the next chapter, I will reveal the most dangerous mistake of all, one that feels like honesty, one that sounds mature and grounded, but quietly convinces you that the version of life you are living now is the highest version available to you. The third mistake is the most subtle because it wears the mask of truth. It does not sound like fear. It does not feel like giving up. It feels like realism. This mistake is accepting an invisible ceiling. It shows up as quiet statements you rarely question. This is just how far I go. I know my limits. I'm not meant for more than this. These sentences do not arrive with drama. They arrive with calm certainty, and that is precisely the danger. In Kabbalistic thought, the soul is designed for continuous refinement, not endless striving, but ongoing expansion. When expansion stops, contraction begins naturally, not as punishment, as physics. What makes this belief so powerful is that it feels protective. It removes pressure. It justifies comfort. It explains disappointment without requiring change. But the subconscious treats identity statements as commands. When you define who you are, behavior reorganizes to defend that definition. Opportunities that exceed the identity feel foreign. Growth feels unnecessary. Risk feels inappropriate. Psychology observes this clearly. A fixed self-image limits perception. You stop noticing doors that do not match who you believe yourself to be.
Not because they are closed, because they no longer register. This is why the ceiling is rarely felt as loss. It is felt as normal. Years pass, life functions, but something subtle disappears. Expectation. There was a long-term observational study conducted in Israel that noticed this exact pattern. Participants who described their financial state as stable and sufficient showed a gradual decline in initiative over time. Their income did not collapse, it plateaued. The words did not create failure, they created containment. At night, this mistake becomes deeply embedded. When you fall asleep believing this is the final version of your life, the subconscious organizes everything to protect that version. New possibilities feel disruptive, expansion feels unrealistic, the unknown feels unnecessary. This is the most dangerous lie because it feels responsible.
But responsibility without openness becomes resignation. The truth is quieter and more demanding. There is no final version of you. There is only direction, upward or inward, expansion or contraction. The moment this truth is allowed back in, something softens, not tension, identity. You no longer have to defend where you are. You are free to grow from it. This is where hope returns, not as fantasy, but as structure. Because if words can set a ceiling, they can also remove it. If language can freeze growth, it can restart it. In the next chapter, I will give you the sentence, not a wish, not an affirmation, a structure of words designed to keep gratitude alive without closing the vessel, movement active without pressure, and identity open without fear. Now the structure matters more than the emotion, because emotion fades, but structure remains.
What you write before bed must hold three forces at once: gratitude, movement, and expansion. If one is missing, the signal weakens. If all three are present, the message is coherent. The sentence itself is not magic. Its alignment is. Write it exactly once, slowly, by hand if possible. The sentence follows this structure. I am grateful for what I have, I am actively moving forward, and I am becoming more than I was. The first part anchors reality. I am grateful for what I have. This prevents desperation. It tells the subconscious there is no emergency. Emergency thinking closes perception. Gratitude stabilizes it. But notice how gratitude alone would still be incomplete. That is why the second part exists. I am actively moving forward. Not succeeding, not winning, moving. Movement is essential. The subconscious responds to direction, not outcome.
When you declare movement, you keep the process alive. When you declare movement, you keep the process alive. The vessel remains open. The final part removes the ceiling. And I am becoming more than I was. This is not arrogance, it is permission. It dissolves fixed identity without pressure. Together, these three elements create a signal that the system can work with. You are not closing the story, You are not rushing it. You are keeping it open and active. Do not add details tonight. Do not list goals. Specifics belong to daylight. Night belongs to alignment. Make this a ritual, not a performance. Same notebook, same place, same quiet moment. Write the sentence, close the notebook, sleep. Do not check how you feel afterward. Do not look for signs in the morning. That turns alignment into negotiation. The system does not respond to bargaining. What changes first is subtle. Language during the day shifts naturally.
You speak with less apology. You hesitate less before small opportunities, not because you forced confidence, but because contradiction has been removed. Your night is no longer canceling your day. This is why consistency matters more than belief. Belief argues. Consistency teaches. If you miss a night, do not compensate. Simply return the next night. Pressure weakens the signal. Regularity strengthens it. This sentence does not demand anything from the world. It simply tells the truth about your direction. And direction is what reality responds to. In the next chapter, I will show you how this quiet practice plays out in real lives, not through miracles, but through small shifts that compound. Because when the signal changes, the response follows. To understand how this works, you have to look at real movement, not dramatic stories. Change rarely arrives with noise.
It arrives with adjustment. I watched this principle unfold in a woman who had spent years circling the same financial ground. She was not failing, she was surviving, and survival became her nightly language. At least I'm managing. That was the sentence she carried into sleep for years. When she began writing before bed, nothing emotional happened. No surge of hope, no sudden belief. What changed was tone. Her inner language stopped closing the day. Grateful, moving, becoming. Within weeks, small things shifted. She noticed invitations she previously dismissed. She spoke differently in conversations, not louder, just clearer. She stopped apologizing for taking space. Nothing mystical occurred. Alignment did. Another example was even quieter. A man who did not believe in spiritual systems at all. He believed in habits. And habits, he understood, shape outcomes.
He treated the sentence as an experiment. 7 nights. No analysis, no expectation. Just repetition. On the 8th day, something small happened. In a meeting, he said something he would normally withhold. Not bolder, more direct. That clarity shifted how others responded to him. Within months, his environment reorganized around that new signal. This is how change works when resistance is removed, not by force, but by coherence. The words themselves did not create opportunity. They removed contradiction. His day effort was no longer canceled by his night language. This is why belief is irrelevant here. Belief is emotional. Consistency is structural. You do not need faith for gravity to work. You do not need belief for alignment to respond. What matters is repetition at the right moment. Night is that moment. These stories are not exceptions. They are patterns.
Whenever internal language stops declaring finality, life resumes movement. Money responds to perception before it responds to effort. Effort without perception feels heavy. Perception without effort feels empty. When both align, movement feels natural. This is why the practice works across backgrounds, cultures, and belief systems. The mechanism is human. Language shapes attention. Attention shapes choice. Choice shapes outcome. Kabbalistic systems simply preserved this observation carefully, not as superstition, but as discipline. If you find yourself wanting proof before trying this, notice that impulse. It is the same impulse that delays growth everywhere else. Experience always comes after alignment, not before. You are not being asked to believe a story. You are invited to stop repeating one. In the next chapter, we will step back and integrate everything.
Not as a technique, but as a way of understanding creation itself. Because once you see how words organize reality, you stop using them casually, especially at night. At this point, the pattern should feel familiar, not because it is new, but because it has always been operating.
What we have been discussing is not a trick for money. Money is only the most visible response. What is really being shaped is direction. In the oldest teachings, creation did not begin with action. It began with speech. Words were not labels, they were instructions that organized chaos into form. This idea survives because it mirrors how the human system works. When you name something, you define how you relate to it. When you repeat that name, you reinforce the relationship. Over time, the relationship becomes structure.
Night language matters because it is the final structure set before the system runs on its own. While you sleep, the subconscious continues working. It does not rest. It maintains coherence. If your daytime effort says one thing and your nighttime words say another, the stronger signal wins. Night usually wins, not because it is louder, but because it is uninterrupted. This explains why so many people feel exhausted without moving forward. They push during the day and quietly cancel progress at night. Not intentionally, habitually. Once you remove contradiction, effort feels lighter. Not easier, but cleaner. You are no longer pulling against yourself. This is the deeper philosophy behind the practice. You are not trying to attract anything. You are removing resistance to what is already possible. Words are tools of organization. They shape perception. Perception filters reality. Filtered reality becomes experience. When your words declare growth, perception looks for growth. When perception finds it, choice follows, and choice compounds. This is why small shifts create large outcomes over time, not because they are powerful, but because they are consistent. The 7-day practice is not a test of faith. It is a reset of alignment. 7 nights of the same signal, sent at the same moment, without interference. Do not evaluate results during those days. Evaluation introduces noise. Noise reintroduces contradiction. Simply observe. Notice how your internal dialogue changes during the day. Notice how you respond to situations that previously felt closed. These are signs of coherence, not reward. You are not asking life for more. You are allowing yourself to move toward it. This philosophy removes blame. You are not broken. You are misaligned. And misalignment can be corrected quietly. Once you understand this, language becomes something you handle with care. Especially at night. Especially when you are tired. Especially when you are tempted to close the story too soon. There is one final element that amplifies everything we have discussed. It is not a technique. It is not a sentence. It is a posture. In the final chapter, I will leave you with that posture, not as instruction, but as a closing alignment. Because how you carry this into sleep tonight matters just as much as what you write. Everything we have explored leads to a single posture, not effort, not belief, orientation. The posture is this: you do not close the story before sleep. You leave it gently open. Most people end their days sealing themselves into who they were. You are choosing to end the day aligned with who you are becoming.
That difference is subtle, but decisive. Words are not wishes. They are permissions. When you give yourself permission to grow, the system no longer resists growth. It does not rush it either. It allows it. So tonight, when the day quiets down, do not rush the ending. Do not summarize your life with a tired sentence. Do not judge what did or did not happen. Judgment closes. Orientation opens. Write the sentence. Slowly. Once. Let it stand without commentary. Then sleep. Trust that clarity does not need supervision. Trust that alignment works even when you are not watching. Especially when you are not watching. There is an old way of ending the day that carries no demand, only direction. May what is meant for you recognize you. May what is ready find you. May you be guided even when you are unaware. This is not a request. It is an agreement.
You are agreeing not to sabotage movement with final words. You are agreeing not to confuse rest with resignation. You are agreeing to let growth remain active, quietly, consistently. Nothing dramatic needs to happen tomorrow. Movement often begins invisibly, first in language, then in perception, then in choice. Money responds last, not first. It follows alignment the way a shadow follows form. If you share this with someone, do it without urgency. Urgency belongs to fear. Growth belongs to patience. Let this practice be simple, private, steady. And when night comes, remember this. You are not ending the day. You are setting direction. Gratitude keeps you grounded. Movement keeps you alive. Growth keeps the story open. Let those be the final words you allow to cross into sleep.